Today, as we gather in somber celebration of the life and legendary legacy of Congressman John Robert Lewis.
He was such a giant, such a legend.
Titan of the civil rights movement, a beloved Georgian, an American hero.
There is a sweet, sweet spirit in this place.
This prophet lived, and this prophet named John Lewis.
John's eloquence was in being present at the scene of injustice and standing tall.
Good morning, I'm Francesca Amaker. After 5 days of tributes from Alabama, D.C., and here in Atlanta, a final tribute is planned later this morning for Congressman John Lewis. It will definitely be a day of celebrating Lewis's life, his legacy, and impact in a city he called home for decades. Now we have team coverage of how the city will pay its final tribute. Naima Abdullahi covering the funeral at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church. Nick Sturdivant on how Atlanta's mayor and Governor Brian Kemp honored Congressman Lewis to the road closures expected in the city with Jerry Carnes. But first, meteorologist Chesley McNeil on the weather for people heading out to remember John Lewis.
Yes, it's going to be very muggy out there, especially starting off this morning. We got temperatures in the 70s, of course, and we got some showers out there as well. Very isolated. So if you're up here to the north, we do have a little moderate pocket you can see near the beginning of 575 up here near Tate, up in Pickens County. For the most part, the rain is on the light side. A little further down to the south as well, closer to the perimeter now, northern parts of the perimeter. You get some light rain over towards Sandy Springs. Continues over into Gwinnett County as well, just south of Sugar Hill along I-985 and 85 there, and then over into Lawrenceville. So isolated this morning. We'll see more showers and thunderstorms popping up this afternoon. A couple of thunderstorms could drop some brief heavy rain on you, of course. Temperatures starting off in the 70s this morning. We'll get up to 86 for an afternoon high today. Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Chesley McNeil. We're going to take another look at this situation. I-85 northbound near Indian Trail Road. We had a vehicle engulfed in flames. Now, fortunately, fire crews are on the scene. They have extinguished that fire, but still one lane closed I-85 northbound near Indian Trail. There's the spot of our vehicle fire. A little bit south of there, we're going to the downtown connector where we've got an accident that is off on the right-hand shoulder. This is I-75 southbound right before 14th Street, so you might see some flashing lights there. And speaking of downtown and services today for Congressman John Lewis, that will take place at Ebenezer Baptist Church. So just keep in mind there are going to be several road closures down there from 9:30 until about 1 o'clock this afternoon. We're talking Auburn Avenue, Edgewood, those areas around Ebenezer Baptist Church. So be aware about that. That could impact your drive downtown a little later this morning.
Today, former Congressman John Lewis will be laid to rest in Atlanta, the final ceremony for the civil rights icon. Sources telling 11 Alive former President Barack Obama is set to deliver the eulogy at the church where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was once a pastor, who was an inspiration for Lewis. Naima Abdullahi is live at Ebenezer Baptist Church with more on the former president's relationship with Congressman John Lewis. They were tight, Naima.
Good morning, Francesca. The bond between the Honorable John Lewis and former President Barack Obama was vibrant, evident, and reflective of the progress this nation has made, where John Lewis, a man who marched and protested for the right to vote, 43 years later would see President Barack Obama get voted as president, a progress that he said was a monumental moment in his life. It is symbolic of their friendship that Barack Obama is expected to deliver the eulogy for Congressman John Lewis here at Ebenezer Baptist Church because of the bond between them. John Lewis once said that when he was organizing voter registration cards and marching through Selma for the right to vote in the 60s, at that time he did not dream of a possibility of one day he would live to see a black man become president of the United States. And their paths intersected at a few historic moments. John Lewis received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from former President Barack Obama in 2011. That was a monumental moment when Barack Obama placed that medal around his neck, a symbolic gesture from the nation's first black president. And 5 years ago, Barack Obama walked alongside John Lewis and joined thousands of people in Selma to honor the sacrifice of those who put their bodies and their blood on the line in 1965, all for the right to vote. And just a month ago, June, a town hall meeting held by Barack Obama, a virtual town hall on racial injustice in response to the pandemic and the protests, and John Lewis ended up chiming in. Again, sources sources have confirmed to 11 Alive that 3 former presidents will attend the funeral services. Besides President Barack Obama, who is expected to deliver the eulogy, former presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush are also expected to be in attendance as well. Again, a big monumental day, a big historic day. That 6-day-long celebrations of life that went from Alabama to D.C. now to Atlanta is wrapping up to honor a man who helped shape this nation, our city, and the entire world, inspiring a new generation of leaders who want to step into his role to carry on that vision of good trouble. Back to you.
Thank you, Naima. Former President Jimmy Carter and First Lady Rosalynn Carter will not attend Congressman John Lewis's funeral. A spokeswoman for the former president telling NBC News the Carters are not traveling these days, but are sending their condolences in writing. Now, Carter is the nation's oldest living president and a cancer survivor. And the final journey for Congressman John Lewis in Atlanta showed the impact he left on his home. From the moment his casket arrived at the Dobbins Air Reserve Base to the state capitol, people lined the roads to wave goodbye, some even cheering, applauding. From John Lewis Freedom Parkway to his mural on Auburn Avenue before arriving at the state capitol. There was a brief ceremony for family members and political leaders, including Governor Brian Kemp and Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms at the state capitol for Lewis. Nick Sturdivant joins us live there with more on how the governor and Atlanta's mayor honored Lewis. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Francesca. And they both spoke about what Lewis meant to not only the state of Georgia, but the rest of the nation. Governor Kemp presented the state flag to Lewis's son, and Mayor Bottoms spoke about her personal connection to Lewis and his family, and says the last time she spoke with him was on a Zoom call with former President Barack Obama. Governor Kemp also spoke about Lewis's leadership and said his legacy should continue to serve as our country's conscience.
His example taught us that we have nothing to lose and everything to gain by working together and loving one another.
Although the fight for liberty and equality continues, Congressman Lewis reminded us to be hopeful, to be optimistic, and to never lose a sense of hope.
And Francesca, we mentioned this earlier, but Congressman Lewis is still inside the state capitol. He plans to leave, well, they plan to take his casket to Ebenezer Baptist Church at 8 o'clock. And one thing that we noticed before this live shot, it appears to be sort of like a small group outside of the state capitol waiting to see him off to Ebenezer.
I'm sure we will see much more of that today, Nick. Thank you so much. Congressman Lewis meant so many things to so many different people. His legacy will be defined by more than just civil rights. Starting today, his fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, will conduct community service projects called 3 Days of Good Trouble in Service to honor Lewis.
Our cause means on its way.
The fraternity honored Lewis with a special ceremony filled with music and prayers at the Capitol last night. Lewis was initiated into the fraternity in Atlanta in 1974. And so many people have personal stories and memories of Congressman John Lewis, from casual conversations to longtime friendships. Some people even danced with him. He loved to dance. Tyler Perry shared his thoughts on the civil rights icon on the Today Show.
He was a really good man. He wanted what was right. That's what I want to remember, that he was good. I've got so many personal stories about him and how our lives crossed paths over the years, including my studio is in his district. This is where he was elected all these years. So I want people to remember that he was a good man, and good always wins.
And as you saw there, Lewis was one of the many people outside of or at the Tyler Perry Studios for the historic opening of Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta. And Perry is just one of many remembering honoring the life and legacy of Congressman Lewis. Here's what some of you are saying on our Facebook page. Linda writes, "Rest in peace to a great man, gonna be missed. He taught a lot of love. He fought for life. He will be remembered." And Clark writes, "Rest well, Honorable Lewis. You've done an amazing job here on earth. Please take your rest. You will be missed by all." And Patty writes, "When they played his speech in the Capitol, I sadly realized nobody today has the passion and love for America. We don't hear speeches like that anymore. Gave me goosebumps. Rest in peace." Again, Congressman John Lewis's private funeral is this morning at 11 at Ebenezer Baptist Church in downtown Atlanta. We'll have coverage all morning long from the moment he's taken from the state capitol until it arrives at Ebenezer Baptist Church. We will also carry the service live on air and online, and of course on our 11 Alive YouTube page as well. And you can also watch on our app and learn more about today's services and his long legacy.